Let's take Boruto back in time and put him up against the most terrifying shinobi group from Naruto. I've split Boruto into 3 main levels, and we'll talk about each level and see how well he'd go up against each member of the Akatsuki. Boruto has always had odds stacked heavily in his favor. He's a descendant of one of the most powerful shinobi that has ever existed, and the current most powerful shinobi in the world. Secondly, he's also a descendant of the Hyuga clan, which has one of the most powerful dojutsu ever. He also inherited the intelligence of his grandfather and the unpredictability of his father. Boruto was pretty much born a genius and is destined to become the strongest shinobi ever. Even as a kid, he was regarded as an elite who excels in all fields of combat. With that in mind, let's look at level 1 Boruto. This version is pretty intimidating on his own. As an Uzumaki, he inherited a powerful life force, and like his father, he has a very large chakra reserve. In the anime, Boruto's body is also strong enough to handle natural energy, and he has the potential for senjutsu. But a lot of this is potential. They aren't abilities that he's unlocked. Boruto has a lot of potential to be one of the greatest shinobi that has ever lived, but at level 1, he's just a kid and still has a long way to go. Let's put him up against his first opponent. The best person to go up against this younger Boruto would be Zetsu. Zetsu is described as never being suited for prolonged battles. In fact, other than his ability to make perfect clones of people and his transformation techniques, I don't see Zetsu pulling a win against Boruto, unless he goes for an assassination attack without being detected. For the sake of this video though, we're only looking at head-to-head battles, and Boruto easily takes the win. But it's not much of a competition anyway. It's his next matchup that'll test his strength. Next is Konan, who was a kunoichi from Amagakure, and she's a more interesting pair-up for Boruto since she's a student of Jiraiya, one of the 3 legendary Sannin, and Naruto's former mentor as well. Konan's most notable feat in the series is almost killing Obito in a one-on-one battle, but she had time to prepare before springing an attack on him, and even with that she still lost. That's not to say that Konan isn't strong though. Even Pain praises her strength multiple times and takes pride in her being his partner. Looking at everything without prep time, I think Boruto takes this one as well. Konan is a powerful kunoichi, but if we're assuming that these two just met and started fighting with no understanding of each other's abilities, Boruto has a lot more abilities, chakra, and stamina to keep up with her and overpower her. She'd put up a good fight, but ultimately it wouldn't be enough. Next up is Hidan, another Akatsuki member who's pretty strong. Now, this one is a bit trickier to decide. Remember, Hidan was an S-rank shinobi before he joined the Akatsuki, but Boruto is also considered an elite in Konoha even before he joined the academy. This one is going to have to come down to technique, which I think Boruto has in spares. But Hidan has one trump card at his disposal, and that's his inability to die through any means. That means stabbing, decapitating, and even straight up blowing him up will have no effect other than slowing him down. The only disadvantage of this is that once his head and other limbs are separated from his body, they need to be reattached for him to use them again. Meaning that if Boruto can chop off his head, it's an instant win for him. This is going surprisingly well for Boruto, but things are only going to get harder from here. The next battle puts him up against a member of the Akatsuki that had even Sasuke on the run. But before we get there, you've made it pretty far in the video, huh? Looks like you're really enjoying the content. Why don't you leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you never miss more videos like this? Anyway, next up on our list is the explosion art specialist, Deidara. Now, Deidara is definitely the first on this list that's really going to give Boruto a heck of a tough time. He's a master of the explosion release technique, which are large scale and they pack a serious punch. He's also able to react and dodge a speed blitz from Sasuke. And with all of that, he also has long-range capabilities that can scout shinobi from long distances. Boruto's winning streak has been pretty impressive, all things considered, but Deidara is his very first major roadblock. We're going to need to go a level up for him to have a chance against the explosion expert. The next level for Boruto is after he unlocks his Jogan at the age of 16. Previously, he was only able to unlock the Jogan instinctively when he's in danger, but now he can activate it at will. This dojutsu can perceive the flow of chakra, and likewise track a target through its chakra. It can also see through the invisible barriers that connect dimensions. With that massive visual upgrade, Boruto scales several times higher, and he immediately becomes a much greater threat. Thanks to the Jogan, Boruto also unlocks the ability to use Gentle Fist, enhancing his taijutsu skills and close-range lethality. It's safe to say that with all these boosts, Boruto scales above Deidara. Not easily, mind you, but he still takes the win here. We're halfway through the list already, and the next up is Sasori of the Red Sand. Sasori was a puppet that learnt most of his trade from Granny Chiyo. He got so good, in fact, he was able to keep up with Granny Chiyo. On top of that, he had human puppets at his disposal, which were equipped with many different weapons, as well as the jutsu that the puppet knew while it was alive. This means that he can use many different types of jutsu per battle depending on what puppets he brings with him. This makes him even more of a threat to Boruto, especially with his most powerful puppet, the third Kazekage, who retained his magnet release even after becoming a puppet. And on top of all that, Sasori himself has a puppet body, meaning he has all the advantages of being a puppet while still being fully alive and cognitive. How does all this rank up to Boruto though? Well, I think Boruto takes the win here. The best I can see Sasori doing against him is using the third Kazekage's Iron Sand techniques, laced with poison to lethally poison Boruto, but I still see that being nullified. So that marks another win down for him, but it doesn't end there. Kakuzu is the next Akatsuki member, and just like Sasori, I think this one comes down to the wire. His main strength is his speed and his ability to detach his body parts at will. That, as well as his different masks, which allow him to switch his elemental affinity, make him a dangerous threat. Boruto has the hacks and the technique to come out on top. I think the same goes for Kisame as well. He has massive chakra reserves well above the rest of the Akatsuki, and he certainly earned the title of the tailed beast without a tail. But Boruto is a budding otsutsuki at this point. With his awakened abilities and the massive amount of hacks handed to him at birth, he takes this one home too. But Itachi changes things. Just like Boruto, he was born a genius and was the first person on the list with a dojutsu like Boruto. In his younger days, during the Uchiha massacre, he was able to use the Mangekyo Sharingan without fatigue. But by later in the series, just 3 uses is enough to make him fatigued. That means this battle comes down to how fast Itachi can take Boruto out before he gets weakened by his ill chakra reserves. In that kind of battle, I still give it to Boruto. While Itachi has a ton of abilities that can nuke Boruto off the face of the earth, Boruto likewise has the speed and resourcefulness to evade all those attacks. Alright, we're down to the last 2 members, and before we even list them, I already know Boruto needs to suit up to take them on. So let's upgrade him to the final stage, Level 3. At Level 3, we look at the version of Boruto we know in 2 Blue Vortex. This version of Boruto comes with all his previous abilities amplified tenfold, as well as the infamous Kama Seal. When accessing the Kama's power, Boruto becomes able to fight on par with inners of Kara. On top of that, when Boruto is knocked out, Momoshiki, who dwells within the Kama Seal, takes control, immediately having all of Boruto's memories and abilities, and turning his right eye into the Byakugan. In this state, it'll take a lot more than some hacks and experience to bring him down. So let's put him up against our next contender, Pain. Pain is famous for one huge power play, and that's completely deleting the hidden leaf off the map. With that raw power, we immediately know that he's at least a city-level threat, as he was able to do that pretty effortlessly. But Boruto has just as much destructive power. Even without the Kama Seal, he was strong enough to stagger Momoshiki. That's a crazy amount of power for one person to have. Pain could barely take on 6-tailed Berserk Naruto without getting pummeled. Based on that, and more feats, this one goes to Boruto. And finally, we have the strongest Akatsuki member. A man so strong, he was good enough to fool the world into thinking he's Madara. Obito is easily the final boss of Naruto. Let's lay out the abilities on the table. Obito is immensely skilled in taijutsu, as well as his kamui and all the main hacks that come from the Mangekyo Sharingan. And with all of that, Obito also became the 10 Tails Jinchuriki by the end of the series, unlocking the Rinnegan and getting power-ups similar to Boruto's Jigen. With all of these facts lined up on the table, I have to give this final battle to Boruto. Don't get me wrong, Obito is a beast and he's not going down without a fight, but Boruto managed to easily defeat Code with no limiters. While it would be a fight for the ages, Boruto successfully carries this one. And that's my analysis for what would happen if Boruto fought all the Akatsuki members. If you want to know more about the Akatsuki, click on the video on the screen or check out our channel for another cool anime video. Go ahead, click it!